Welcome into the day 3 pre-show of the 2020 NFL Draft. I'm Sierra Goodwill here with Evan Lazar. Mike Petralia may join us shortly. Evan, we've had a night to sleep on it. 5 new Patriots welcomed in yesterday in day 2, a really productive day for the Patriots. 3 defensive players, 2 tight ends. Now that you've had some time to mull it all over, how do you think the Patriots draft has gone so far?
I was hoping you would ask me this question because I did think about this a little bit. And I think on the surface, if I look at my rankings and sort of the consensus rankings around the league or around the internet, I should say, they reached on some of these players. I mean, quite frankly, nobody expected Kyle Duggar to go in the top 40 picks. I don't think that many people expected Dalton Keene to go in day 2 either, or Devin Asiasi. So yeah, I mean, listen, they reached on some of these guys from the media perspective, but I think what we've learned is that Bill Belichick's board is so much different from ours, and I'm not one, or the media is not one. Mel Kiper and all of us guys are not people to just sit here and say that he's wrong. Maybe he is actually right about this and right about these players. So let's give them all a chance and just kind of see where the things take us. I mean, it's not like he drafted this year a guy in the 2nd round that was projected to go in the 6th round. This isn't any Jordan Richards type situations. We're talking about splitting hairs here. I had Duggar as a 3rd round grade and they drafted him in the 2nd. It's not like they're reaching, way up on a guy yet, at least. We'll see what happens today. So I think that's the biggest thing. The other thing is that I'm honestly just absolutely shocked that Jacob Eason and Jake Fromm are still sitting there on the board. I think especially with Eason, the NFL usually falls in love with the arm strength. Like, you got a guy like who has just a cannon like that. It's usually a lock to go in the first 3 rounds, simply just off the fact that he's got a hose. So I find it very hard to believe that those 2 guys are still available. I also find it very hard to believe that the Patriots aren't interested in trading back into the 4th round to grab some of these leftover guys. Some of the guys that most people had as end of the day 3 type picks that are still up on the board now. Package some of those 6th round picks to move back up into the 4th round.
That's what I was leading into here. If you envision the Patriots trading up again, they did so 3 different times yesterday, because as it stands right now, the Patriots have no 4th round picks. They have 159 in the 5th round. Then they have 4 picks in the 6th round, 195, 204, 212, and 213. And then they have 1 7th round pick at 230. So like you said, a big hole here in that 4th round, especially now with 2 quarterbacks on the board. Do you see that the Patriots can they trade up into that 4th round? And real quickly, because you said you're shocked that Fromm and Eason are still on the board. In the pre-draft show on ESPN, a lot of people were talking about concerns with Eason's character. Is that anything that you've heard?
So basically, his character, it's an interesting way of putting it. He's a laid back guy. He's gotten a ton of Jay Cutler type of comparisons where he's just kind of go with the flow, laissez. He's not necessarily your Tom Brady, who's going to be out there at 6 o'clock in the morning out on some random field somewhere throwing with his cronies or his group or posse, whatever you want to call them. That's not necessarily the type of vibes that you get from Jake Eason. So I think that there's some concerns about his work ethic, about how much he actually cares about his craft and how much he's really willing to put in there. And he kind of gives that loosey-goosey, everything's chill type of vibe about him. And that's not for everybody. That's certainly not for everybody at the quarterback position, where you want that alpha personality, that demanding, dominating type of figure.
And what are some other big names still left on the board for the Patriots? Obviously, maybe a wide receiver here, another maybe a offensive tackle. What are some guys that you're looking out for today for the Patriots?
Well, I think that really what we're seeing is what we expected with the wide receivers here, is that there's just a ton still available that can play. I think we knew that the depth of this receiver class was crazy good, and here we are. And there's guys like Antonio Gandy Golden and KJ Hill, and James Proche is still out there. Colin Johnson from Texas, Joe Reeds, who's a guy that I liked a lot. Donovan Peoples-Jones from Michigan, also a guy I liked a lot. So I think we're just watching the depth of this class take hold, and the Patriots are sitting pretty now with the opportunity to draft one of these guys on day 3 agree that I think in other drafts with less deep receiving, kind of classes, you might have seen these guys start falling off the board at the end of the third round. I think KJ Hill still being out there from Ohio State. This is a guy that played at a Power 5 conference, had 201 career receptions playing in the slot for the Buckeyes. Him still being on the board is an absolute steal at this point of the draft. Now, he ran a 4.6 in the 40-yard dash at the combine. That's what's killing him, right? I mean, if you're a wide receiver and you run a 4.6, that's not NFL speed. That's not what you're looking for, but he's so quick at the top of the route, and he has such great footwork in and out of his breaks that he's more shifty than he is fast. And I think that everybody that watched him on tape before the combine was expecting him to not run fast. I think that was definitely the expectation. So I just look at these wide receivers, and I'm desperate for the Patriots to just get their hands on at least one of them, because we're still going, I would say, 12 or 15 guys deep at this point with talented skill players at the wide receiver position. I mean, Tyler Johnson from Minnesota is one of the biggest producers and has one of the best tapes of any draft prospect in this class, and he's still sitting there right on the board, all because his athletic profile isn't cookie cutter NFL standard.
We've got a couple questions here in our live chat, and guys, feel free to drop them as we go along here. Is trading Joe Thuney off the board now as we move into day 3?
Absolutely. I think the biggest thing with Thuney is that you're going to get that comp pick back for him anyway if he does leave in free agency next offseason. It's actually going to be a year delayed. I believe it would be a 2022 comp pick because he was franchise tagged. So that's kind of just a little bit of a wrinkle there. But overall, you're still going to get that comp pick at some point. You're going to get a third round pick for him. So the only way you're trading him is if you can get something better than a third round pick or a higher third round pick. And that's obviously off the board now. So trading Thuney for a fourth rounder is strictly a salary cap maneuver if it happens, and that would be a net loss sort of in the equation.
We talked a lot about Jake Fromm and Jacob Eason. Are those the only 2 quarterbacks on the board that intrigue you or that you think the Patriots could be interested in?
So Anthony Gordon from Washington State is a really interesting name too on day 3. He has got an unconventional style. Let's just put it to you that way, where in the pocket, his mechanics, his footwork are just goofy at times, just flat out goofy. And they're just plays where the world freezes for him. And he's just standing there like a statue in the pocket, and everyone's flying around him. And you see him completely come to a standstill, and you're like, what is he doing? But at the same time, he's got a really good arm. He is a guy that wins between the numbers and throws with great anticipation and accuracy to the middle of the field, which obviously we know is something the Patriots covet in their quarterbacks. And he's got a snappy, quick release that allows him to really create a ton of velocity just from flicking the wrist. So he could throw from different platforms. There's the guy that he's trying to emulate, and I'm not saying that he's this guy at all, but he's trying to be Patrick Mahomes. He plays like Patrick Mahomes a little bit with that loosey-goosey style where his footwork and his mechanics kind of go out the door, and he's sort of just flinging it back there at times. But at the same time, he kind of has a very good feel and grasp of hitting receivers, running through a full field progression. I mean, there's plenty of plays where he's going 1, 2, 3, 4 and, hitting the backside dig or hitting the backside post or something like that. And that's what you want to look for from a mental standpoint, is if a quarterback can do that. Now, the air raid offense at Washington State's going to be an adjustment, obviously, to a pro style offense with the Patriots. The footwork and the mechanics need work unless you just want to let him do his thing and get away with it and see if he can just kind of be goofy and just have it work for him. But overall, I think that him and James Morgan from Florida International is another guy the Patriots have done a ton of homework on. He's a 6'6" rocket arm, just a big, juicy quarterback, just your typical big dude in the pocket that's kind of a statue, but he stands there and he's got a rocket. He is from the Wisconsin area, grew up as a Green Bay Packer fan, and he emulates his game after Brett Favre. So you got a Patrick Mahomes, kind of look-alike, and you got a Brett Favre look-alike here on day 3 that I think the Patriots might be kicking the tires on.
We have a question here in the comments from Kevin Stewart. Which player or players would you trade back up into the 4th round to get?
Well, I talked about Hill. I would say that he's probably the guy on the board right now that I would most like the Patriots to get their hands on, because he just runs routes exactly how the Patriots are gonna, how he's gonna win in the slot here. You know, he's just a proficient route runner, extremely quick and agile player at the top of the route, and he has all the kind of tools to be a very productive slot here for New England. Now, they might view it that his athletic profile is a little bit better than Jacoby Myers's, but it's kind of similar that he's not a great athlete and that he doesn't run, you know, a blazing 40 and all that kind of stuff, but he's crafty, right? And he's quick and he's agile and he's got good feet and stuff like that. So maybe they look at him as sort of redundant to Jacoby, and that's why they're not pouncing on him. The other guy is Prince Tega Wanahuga, I think is how you pronounce it, from Auburn, who's a left tackle prospect. Yeah, I just said that. He's from Africa, obviously, but he also played at Auburn in college, and he is a kind of a developmental tackle prospect, but he's got great tackle feet. You know, the ability to mirror and slide at the left tackle position and stay in front of edge rushers. He has all of the tools to be a starter in the NFL, but he's a late comer to football, obviously, so he's just raw at the position. That's why he falls out of the first 3 days, but first 2 days. But I think that he's a player that will come off the board quickly here tonight.
All right, let's get to the good stuff. Patriots need a kicker, right? Are they going to draft a kicker today? Steven Gostkowski, the Patriots have moved on from him. They need a long-term guy as their kicker. Who are some draft prospects at that position?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would be shocked if we go through the entire day today and they don't take a kicker. Now, maybe they might wait till undrafted free agency and sign one then, and we'll get our kicker there. But by the end of the day, at some point, we're going to have a new kicker on the Patriots roster. I find that hard to believe. Similar to the quarterback position, you know, Caserio said last night in his video call with us that there's going to be a third quarterback on the roster. We just don't really know how that guy is going to get here. So I say similar with the kickers. I mean, Tyler Bass from Georgia Southern is the guy that I've been kind of pounding the table for. I'll continue to do that. He's just got a cool demeanor to him, sort of just the perfect kicker's mentality, right? Not going to dwell on the pass, not going to get too high or too low. He's got a big leg that also, you know, lets him do kickoff specialists and stuff like that. But he's got an absolute booming leg. Rodrigo Blankenship from Georgia, obviously a big name too. If the Patriots want, you know, a stud kicker, if they want the Steven Gostkowski 2.0, then drafting Blankenship at some point is the most obvious choice. He's the guy that is kind of like the kicking prize of this draft, if you will. I know Trags has talked a little bit about the kicker from Temple, of course, Sam Sloman. Now I remember it. I think that he's got like a sneaky kind of, you know, interest from the Patriots potentially, where like maybe the guy that none of us are sort of talking about or thinking about ends up actually being the guy that they take. JJ Molson from UCLA is just another kicking prospect in this draft. So those are the four. There's one more kicker that went to the combine. They were 5 total there. I can't remember the last one. I'll try to look it up when we have a second here. But those are the 4 guys that I would start with. And my guess is that the Patriots are not thinking Blankenship or Bass. It's probably going to be somebody outside the woodwork that we're not thinking about.
Well, we're just about a minute away until the start of day 3. Evan, quickly, your bold predictions for the 3rd day of the draft for the Patriots.
Bold prediction. I still think that they find their way back into the 4th round for a quarterback at some point, or maybe they end up waiting and the guy falls into their laps. I don't think Eason and Fromm will last much longer, but maybe it's an Anthony Gordon or a James Morgan or someone like that they end up drafting. But with Caserio saying last night that there's, you know, he guaranteed there's going to be a 3rd quarterback on the roster at some point. So I got to think there's a quarterback on their board that they're trying to fit in here in the 3rd round at some point.
Well, if you want an in-depth look at any of the prospects that the Patriots drafted in day 2, head to our website at clnsmedia.com. We've got you covered there. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at PatriotsCLNS, at Sierra Goodwill, at EZ Lazar, because we'll tell you when we're coming back live here on our CLNS Media YouTube channel to talk to you guys as the Patriots make some picks, make some moves in day 3 of the draft. So enjoy, and we'll see you soon.